Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mayor, for that great introduction. And thank you all for showing up here today. Before we begin, I do want to tell you a story. Coming into this building brings back a lot of memories, especially over the last 4 years. This is where we housed most of our media operations here when we're in Texas. And it, I never went to I graduated from high school here in '82, but I never attended this school when it was a high school. It's now it used to be DeSoto East Middle School, and we're actually using it as a press location during our trips here. But it's always good to be here. Always good to be in town. One of the things I love when you come in from Washington as we're crossing the Red River, the Colonel begins to descend into left field, and it's always a great sound when you hear those engines on the 7.4 pull back or 7.5 sometimes pull back, and you know you're beginning your descent into Texas and you're coming home. But thank you for showing up here today, and again, thank you to the mayor, the Chamber of Commerce, all of our local business owners, teachers, and union workers. You know, I want to take a moment and say DeSoto shaped me. You raised me. Some of you know me from our neighborhood across town here, from the old basketball courts or the church potlucks. I carry those memories and that spirit with me every time I step into the White House, and I do. One of the things I always hate is that Sunday afternoon when it comes time for us to head back. You know, it's time to head back up there and do the work we're elected to do, but I always hate that point. You know, it's time to go home, but I always know I'm coming back, so always a good thing to be thinking about that. Today, I'm here to talk about something, and that's real progress grounded in data, but lived in our lives. I'm talking about, folks, I'm talking about jobs, inflation, wages, healthcare, and a future built for working families. You know, back in October of 2020, we began this journey. Our country was still reeling. We were in the thick of a pandemic. Businesses shuttered. The unemployment soared above 14%. Can you believe that? 14, almost 15%. No one could afford to wait. So we stepped up. We stepped up. And since I took office, we've added nearly 15 million jobs. That's millions of Americans back to work, paying bills, raising families, and dreaming again. And those aren't just any jobs. Thankfully, they include over 700,000 new manufacturing jobs. For the first time in decades, America is making things again in plants, factories, and workshops across Ohio, Michigan, and yes, right here in Texas. Just last month, we added 147,000 jobs, keeping pace with our 12-month average, which shows our economy's consistent strength, not just one blip on a map. Now let's talk about what everyone notices first, and that's the cost of living. Inflation peaked at 9.1% in June of 2022, the highest in 40 years. Families felt it in every grocery run, every commute, and every bill. But we didn't sit back. Today, inflation is down to 2.7%, a drop of over 60%. That means real savings when you fill up your tank, buy food, or pay rent. And guess what? Guess what, folks? Your paychecks are growing too. Average hourly wages are up 3.7% in the past year, outpacing inflation and giving working folks a fair share of growth. That's the result of pro-worker policies, raising the minimum wage, supporting collective bargaining, and investing in industries that pay middle-class wages. Because if you work hard and do right, you shouldn't get left behind. And let me say this, and I've said this so many times, you will not be left behind under this administration. That won't happen. And now the healthcare. For the first time in U.S. history, Medicare can negotiate drug prices. That's not a talking point. That's real. That's real. We capped insulin at $35 for Medicare recipients and limited out of pocket drug costs to $2,000 a year for seniors. That's money. That's money back in your pockets. So families don't have to choose between medicine and rent. And I always remember the story. The story, and you all know that Andre is a teacher, and I know a lot of folks in education. But there was a teacher a few years ago who faced the same situation. She got prescribed a prescription that she didn't want, but she needed. Any guess of what that prescription cost? It was over $2,000. Actually, take it back. I said $2,000. That was a savings, but it cost over $800. $800. Now, how is that fair? How is that fair? When already teacher wages are not where they're supposed to be, or not where they should be. Why is that fair? Why is that fair to anybody to pay $800 for a prescription that doesn't cost near that much to manufacture? And that's why I fought so hard. That's why I fought so hard for us to cap these prices. And to be quite frank with you all here today, it should be that way across the board. It is time. It is time for big pharma to quit raking in the billions of dollars in profits and return that money, return those profits to the American people. I'm not against the company making money. Not against that at all. But when you're making billions of dollars and you're charging hundreds of dollars for a medicine that doesn't cost that much, there's something wrong there. Housing cost. We launched new tax credits for first-time home buyers, invested in affordable housing development, and made housing grants available to municipalities like DeSoto. One of the things that I really like here, and they're doing a fantastic job here in my hometown, is something called the Community Development Block Grant Program. Phenomenal program that HUD provides, and I'm a firm supporter of that, and I believe it should continue. And I will do everything within my power to ensure that program does continue, because you're seeing real changes here in DeSoto, with this Community Development Block Grant Program. Child care. We're working to restore the expanded tax credit, provide universal preschool, and support caregivers and educators, because parents shouldn't have to choose between working and caring for their kids. That's not just policy. It's putting families first. And let's not forget the investments powering all this progress. All this work we've done over the past 4 years, I think about what it takes to actually make this happen, and that's infrastructure. We rebuilt crumbling roads and bridges, brought high-speed internet to rural areas, and launched the largest clean energy transformation in U.S. history. There were times during the pandemic when we were all online. Remember those days? It seemed like it was a long time ago. We were all online, and parents had to pull into McDonald's parking lots to get Wi-Fi. Why is that right? Affordable internet should be the case across this country, in every single area, even in the most isolated parts of the country. With the technology that we have, folks, why are we having to do that? The CHIPS and Science Act is helping build semiconductors here at home, right here at home, not at China, not in overseas, not in overseas other countries, but right here in the United States of America. Here at home, the Inflation Reduction Act is cutting energy costs and creating clean energy jobs. That's American ingenuity driving American opportunity. And all of this today was something that we worked on for a long time. over the last 4 years. And, besides with each one of these stories, each one of these things I've talked about, there's a story, and I think about the small business owner. There was a lady by the name of Maria. She's a small business owner. She saved $300 a month on insulin for her father. How about that? $300 a month she saved under the work that we've done to help her father. Jamil, he's a manufacturing worker right up here in Dallas, now employed in a Texas semiconductor plant. How about that? He is working on cutting edge projects. That's so important. And these aren't just stats. They're your neighbors and your families. So here's where we go from here. We will continue job growth, not just any jobs, but robust, well-paying jobs in manufacturing, clean energy, caregiving, and construction. We'll hold down costs for healthcare, housing, prescriptions, childcare, root out corporate price gouging, ensuring fairness in competition, protect our democracy, and invest in security, because a healthier economy depends on a healthy country. And folks, I'm going to close with this. The story of America isn't written by the powerful. It's written by the working people. It's written in places like DeSoto, in neighborhoods, in communities where grit meets grace, and hope meets hustle. That's who we are. That's who we are. And that's America. Let's keep building. Let's keep fighting. Let's keep proving that when ordinary Americans are given a chance, we just don't survive, we thrive. Thank you, DeSoto. Again, I'm proud to call this place my home, and I'm proud to carry your values into Washington every day. May God bless you. May God bless DeSoto, and may He protect our troops. And may God bless America. Thank you all very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.